Weekends are a good time to escape to the woods. Unless the weekend begins with Friday the 13th. Because 13 is an unlucky number. But out here, so are 1 through 12. Because these are Jason's woods. And nobody leaves them alive. Friday the 13th, Part 3, in 3D. Jason, you can't fight him. You can't stop him. And now, you can't even keep him on the screen. Friday the 13th, Part 3, in 3D.
Welcome back to the 31 Days of Spooks. My name is Goebel, and today we're talking about Friday the 13th, Part 3, released in 1982. The film was directed by Steve Miner, who previously directed Part 2. And, yeah, it's the same old shit again. A bunch of camp counselors go to Camp Crystal Lake, and Jason Voorhees is there to kill them. It's the Friday the 13th formula. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And honestly, like I said in my previous review of Friday the 13th when I reviewed Part 2, this formula works for me. Friday the 13th is at its best when it's on the camp and Jason's just slaughtering all these people. And this is no exception. Actually, even though technically it's not quite as good as Part 2, this film is more entertaining than Part 2. And largely because this movie is campy as fuck. There's so much cheesy ass acting. And the 3D effects really add to this movie's campy charm. Like, this movie really fucking uses that 3D gimmick. Like, I swear every few minutes there will be something just flying at the screen and shit. Like, there's yo-yos, a fucking arrow, a guy's fist with chains wrapped around it, popcorn, shit like that. There is a ton of that here. Jason Voorhees to me is a lot better here than he was in Part 2. He's a lot more menacing. He finally gets that iconic hockey mask. Yeah, this is the first movie where you see him wearing that hockey mask. And the kills in this movie are much better than in Part 2 and in Part 1. My favorite kill by far is when that guy is he's walking on his hands and Jason just slams that machete right in between his legs, just cutting him right in the crotch area. It's so brutal. And the aftermath when that pregnant chick is reading that Fangoria magazine and you get to see his body like just right above her. That is some of the most gruesome shit I have ever seen in this franchise. That is like, I think that, yeah, that's the goriest moment in this franchise so far. Not in the franchise in general, but so far, in all the films that I've reviewed, that is the goriest moment in this franchise. The final act, it's a lot like the second one, where it's very slapstick heavy, although it's not quite as funny. Seeing Jason get his ass kicked like it was in Part 2, because I don't know, Jason isn't as clumsy. He's just getting his ass kicked. Like in Part 2, Jason was just clumsy. Here, he's getting fucking books fucking falling on him. He gets hit with a log, he gets hit with a shovel, he gets hung, he even gets stabbed in the leg. Just the whole final act is so much fun, but yeah, as for the kills, yeah, they are top notch in this film. I really love this film for the kills and the cheesy acting and shit like that. It's just everything a 80s horror fan could ask for, and especially in Friday the 13th. It's just a really fun time. Just get some fucking friends over and some beer. It's not Maximum Overdrive where it's just like fucking a shit ton of bad writing and fucking No, this is just pure 80s cheese and camp and some slasher movie goodness. If it's pretty much like any other Friday the 13th movie. If you don't like Friday the 13th, you're not going to like this movie. But if you do like Friday the 13th, you will absolutely enjoy yourself, as I did. I've always loved this. This is when I was younger, like 12 years old, this was one of my favorite Friday the 13th movies. Now, to me, it's not one of my favorites. Like I say, Part 2 is a better movie, but this one's more entertaining. But we will be getting into my favorite Friday the 13th movie later on in about a week. With Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Spoiler, that's my favorite one. But anyways, Friday the 13th Part 3 is a good time. Good 80s cheese. Some great kills, some cheesy acting, some fucking hilarious 3D effects. It's an all-around good time. I'm going to give it a B+. So stay tuned for my next review, which will be the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, coming tomorrow. See you then.